Oh, is that back? I see the VU meter moving again. The monitor still works, but the monitor worked before. Okay, that was super weird. It was like the device driver for the audio input I was using to stream reset or something. That's yet another problem I've never seen before. Anyway, yeah, sorry to trail off like that with... I don't know what would have caused that either, because that's not like an external audio device or anything that reset. It was the one built into the motherboard. Oh... Tuco. Those are actually important. Dude. I mean, they're not that important, but I liked them. Okay, yeah, so I'm just overwhelmed by a bunch of things, and I don't know how much of that I actually got around to talking about before the audio cut out and before Tuco distracted me again. But yeah, anyway, my intention with this was to have a mostly talky stream, because I haven't had a stream in a while and there's a bunch to talk about, but we could also work on some hardware. I need to put this winch back together at least. I still haven't gotten around to doing that. But, oh gosh. As we keep noticing, like, part of the problem here is that I cannot concentrate on anything because this cat is... he's just somebody who always wants my attention. And sometimes I can give him what he wants, but a lot of the time I can't. And I'm getting better at learning some of the weird things that he likes, and some of those things I can do, like, you know, sometimes I can make him happy by rearranging the furniture and having more places for him to hang out. Tuco, dude. And, like, there's a lot of stuff like this where, like, obviously, you know, if I were just a better human, I wouldn't have papers sitting around where Tuco would destroy them. But, like, I'm in this constant... I don't know. I don't want to make, like, I don't want to call it a battle because I don't know, it doesn't feel like it needs to be violent, but it feels like a struggle for sure. Tuco, honey. And, like, whatever, I can just let him tear up all my papers and bite all my cables, but I try not to let that happen because it's frustrating when he just destroys everything constantly. Anyway. And it's not like... Anyway, I don't want to just be ranty because I know that's no fun to listen to. It's just, I have very little energy for this and he exhausts me constantly. Oh gosh, Tuco. Oh my god. Okay, so the audio just wasn't working at all. That's fine. I can start over. Sorry to be jumping in at a weird point then. Oh, gosh, Tuco. What do you even want? I mean, I think he wants to go out in the hall and play with the bolt. Which is what he always wants. Which is sometimes fine. But a lot of the time, I have other things I need to do. And... sometimes it's not fine because he wants to go out in the hall not just to play with the bolt, but to be territorial and puff up his tail and be, you know, trying to take over the whole hallway. Which, like, I don't know, he can posture, I guess, but I don't want him to stress out the other cats, and I don't want him to start a fight or anything. Anyway, mostly the problem is he's just like a bossy little nugget, and he is very hard to do anything around because he tends to just follow me around. Like, if I'm sitting at my desk upstairs, then, you know, sometimes he'll be content to be nearby, but sometimes he'll meow at me because he wants me to be somewhere else. And then if I'm down here working, he'll inevitably want to be around me, but it means he's getting into anything that I'm near, like exactly what he's doing now. Anyway, my point is, yeah, hi, it's been a while since I streamed. There's been a bunch going on. A lot of it's been housing related, some of it's been health related, some of it's been this terrifying relationship that Tuco seems to want to have with my mental health, where he is just dangling me over the volcano. Yeah, but I guess the TLDR here is that, yeah, I'm trying to get out of this place that I've been living in. As nice as it is, it's the kind of place where I think a lot of you appreciate it vicariously on the videos, and when people visit, they're like, oh, this is a great place. But it really just hasn't been working out. You know, it's been nice in some aspects for sure. Like, you know, well, I mean, even the like natural light here has been kind of a mixed blessing, because while it is really appealing when it works out, it makes it really hard to set up consistent shots. And if I'm trying to do any kind of filming, it makes it time of day sensitive, when if I had all artificial lighting, it wouldn't be. So that's kind of a mixed bag even. I don't know, like this place, it looks nice on paper. It was, but it was like mostly a place that I kind of landed because I needed somewhere to live in a hurry, and then I stayed here because it was appealing and it was close to the city. I thought I could make it work, but yeah, I think I've just been, I don't know, I've just exhausted my list of things that I thought I could try here, and oh, Tuco's gonna jump up there, isn't he? Tuco, are you sure you want to do that? So yeah, Tuco is very hard to live with right now. He gets into anything that I'm in. So if I'm trying to pack, if I'm trying to cat-proof stuff, he's always working against me. If I'm trying to work on tools, I have to find some, you know, effective way to distract him or to monitor where he is. Oh, what are you doing up there, man? And he eats plastic, he eats cables. I have to cover every wire. I have to put away every plastic bag. He will tear apart papers. So like there are a lot of materials that I just can't have around Tuco, and so that's part of why there are so many plastic bins everywhere. But I still have trouble just keeping my entire life cat-proofed, and so having doors would be cool. Having rooms would be nice. This place that I live and work and stream in is, you know, it looks nice, and it works pretty well for some things, like having a big flying robot on cables. But yeah, it's really just like one big concrete cube with no privacy or sound isolation or anything. So me and the cat and the servers and the power tools all have to share the same space, and that's a big part of what hasn't been working out here. So yeah, I'm always worried about what Tuco's into, because, you know, it's like I could be working in one part of the shop and everything will be fine, and then I'll start streaming, and now that I'm doing a different thing and I'm sitting in a different place and I'm interacting with everything differently, now all of a sudden Tuco's got to explore and interact with everything differently, and it's really hard to keep up with. That was a big part of why I struggled to make more progress on Tuco Flyer than I did, is it seemed like every time I wanted to work on this project, which was to have, sort of a more internet connected and deeper kind of relationship with my cat, it seemed like the actual act of doing that was always working against that. I'd always end up with him getting in my way, or, I would have to take time away from playing with him to, ignore him and work on CAD or something. So, yeah, it just didn't really seem like those two things were, working toward a common purpose. It seemed like this project that was supposed to be about my cat was actually decreasing my ability to attend to my cat's needs, and that my cat's actual needs were working against the project. So I didn't want to compromise what my cat needed, so I ended up making less progress on the project than I wanted. Where is he? I saw him getting into that tool cart, but maybe not. Anyway. Oh, gosh. Well, so roommates, that's another thing that I tried, and that, so, gosh, this year has been kind of a mess. So I had a roommate for a while here, and that was kind of mixed. The main benefit to having a roommate was that I was a lot less worried about how expensive this place is. So, the main problem with this place is it's expensive. It's, I'm renting in the Bay Area, and it's like a terrible market rate property in the Bay Area, which means it's like $3,000 a month. And I just cannot sustain that, especially, without doing tech jobs regularly. And so, I thought there might be reasons to stay here. I thought I could use the proximity to San Francisco to teach workshops or do consulting. And so I did some of that. I did some hardware consulting jobs, and I did some RD workshops. But I just really ran out of steam for that because I don't have really any enthusiasm for that audience right now. There aren't a lot of Bay Area companies that I want to help out right now, and there aren't a lot of, a lot of classes that I can get excited about wanting to teach to folks in the Bay Area right now. And it really seems like because of the extreme cost of living here, that pretty much everybody either has to, work for Google or Salesforce or Facebook or whatever, or move away. And so, well, it turns out I'm finding myself in that latter category, because, I probably could try to go work for a big tech company, and maybe they would hire me, but, I'm already just, way too burned out on that at this point, for a bunch of reasons. The work environment and the just personal goals I have in terms of what I want to be supporting and what I want to be trying to, put my resources to and my time toward. And, so I'm just finding it harder and harder to mesh my goals with the realities of living in the Bay Area. And, I've been trying, I feel like I've been in that phase of it, the slowly burning out of having the means and enthusiasm for looking in the Bay Area. I feel like that's been going on for a while, 7 years. And, for a while I had a tiny apartment in San Francisco, which was working for me because I had a tech job at the time, and it was really, really tiny. But then I got tired of living in a really tiny place by myself, so I tried living with a bunch of other people, and that failed for a variety of reasons. I think mostly it was just a bunch of irresponsible people in a bad building that, really had no business living with each other. And so it took me a while to firsthand experience the bad social dynamics there, and that blew up pretty badly. And so, but I tried that for like almost a year, I think. And then and then that's what led me to this place. Like, I was in this place where, I thought my last chance to stay in San Francisco was to, live in this kind of shady place with a bunch of weirdos, and that didn't work out. They were not the right kind of weirdos, it turns out. Not the, like, good at living with each other weirdos, but the, like, I don't know. We don't need to go into that situation. That was, I think they were just, they didn't really understand what they were doing. But that's a common problem for 20-somethings, right? Anyway, yeah, so after that housing situation ended badly, I moved out, and Tuco and I, I adopted Tuco while I was living there, and then Tuco and I moved out, and I started renting this place, and yeah, so this place was always expensive. I never really thought that I would live here for a long time. It felt like I would either need to, to like find some sustainable way of doing jobs that would pay a lot, which I didn't really want to do and didn't really feel like I could do. Like, I could do a couple of these like tech consulting jobs where I can help someone fix their firmware and get paid for that, but it's, I don't know, it's just hard to not get burned out on that really quickly. So I was struggling with that for a while. So I don't know. First world problems, right? But that's what I was dealing with. So I don't want to ramble about that too much, but I was, at least personally, reaching my limit to what I could do to live in the Bay Area, and it didn't really seem worthwhile anymore. I tried running some workshops here. I tried, doing some like hardware jobs that seemed interesting. But yeah, all that kind of petered out. I tried doing some like museum art kind of stuff, and that kind of didn't really go where I wanted it to go either. I had some pieces that, at least in some sense, were successful, but I guess none of that led anywhere that I actually wanted to be. It was all like, I don't know, opening a door that didn't seem to lead where I expected it to, and then turning around and looking for a different door, So I feel like that's where I'm at right now. Like, I've been in this kind of expensive and depressing and terrible city, or, metro area for too long, and I need to get out. So that's what I've been working on. So my roommate situation, that was one of the ways that I had tried to make this place affordable, in addition to using the space for workshops and, doing like consulting and stuff. One of the other things I was trying to do to make the situation affordable was to have a roommate. And I didn't want to just live with random people again in the near future if I could avoid it. But I had a friend who was somebody I knew from a while ago, who left town and then came back in town and then needed a new place to live because the roommates they were living in left. And so, it was just like a good situation to try living again with somebody that I already knew that seemed like a relatively good, good potential there. So that did work out pretty well for a while. But I think the problem there is mostly just that this is a really challenging place to share with anyone, be it a human or a cat. And so, yeah, I also had this brief situation where I was sharing it with 3 cats and a human. Because in addition to Tuco, I had these 2 other cats I was like foster caring for a while, which was another whole terrible situation. And that overlapped with the beginning of this roommate. So for a while I had 3 cats and 2 humans living here, and none of us really got along that well. I mean, the roommate and I got along pretty well, but like we also just like to not really interact that much, and we're both like super introverted, so there's that. Yeah, so that was a lot. That was like me and a roommate and 3 cats total, and yeah, not really a lot of ways to partition the place, right? Just one bathroom, which is really the only thing that has a door that works. There's sort of a closet where the isopods and the 3D printers are, but it doesn't have a proper door, and it's really small. So really the only place you can go is outside or in the bathroom if you want some space. So anyway, that's part of why I've been using these sound isolation devices. Yeah, Tuco has a way of just piercing my soul with his meows, and even when I'm wearing those earmuffs, it's still pretty bad. Gosh. Yeah, I don't think Tuco's meows bothered my roommates as much as they bothered me, because I think, I'm both like trying to deal with my own stuff and trying to, be a good cat mom and take care of Tuco's needs. But, sometimes he's meowing about something he really needs. Sometimes he's just lonely. Sometimes, he wants something that I am trying to tell him no about, and I can't tell him no effectively. Yeah, sorry I started out with bad audio. That was embarrassing. Oh, man. Blitz City DIY says that their cats have a similar, her cats have a similar personality type to Tuco. If they were ever to team up, all the wires, paper, and things in general would be destroyed. Yeah, totally. Yeah, well, and it's tough because I like to have wires around. I also really like cats, so it's tough not having separate spaces for that. So yeah, as nice as this big concrete box is, as picturesque as all the natural sunlight is, and as much as the high ceilings make it good for cat robots, it's really bad for my mental health, and doesn't seem to be that great for Tuco to just not have any separation either. So, yeah, I'm trying to move to a different city that is, it's really tempting to just move out in the middle of nowhere and just give up on humanity. And I feel like a lot of people talk about doing that and just, living out in the middle of nowhere. But I'm really trying not to do that at this point. Like, I don't want to be the totally isolated hermit. I want to, if anything, try to find a way to be more connected with the people physically around me. So, like, to me, I feel like it's pretty important to still be in some kind of city, but I don't want to be in one of these, like, trendy, expensive cities. I want to be in something that's, like, a little bit more low-key. So that's what I'm trying to do, is move to a city that's nearby and logistically not too complicated, but also not, like, trendy with the software tech bubble people, so it hopefully isn't going to be terrible in terms of housing. I'm trying to buy a house with, like, a garage and everything, so it'll be a slightly more normal space. I'll have like a bedroom and a living room and a studio area and like a shop in the garage, and so it'll be maybe a little bit less like exotic and interesting on camera, but it'll also be more of an opportunity to build stuff that is applicable to more people's daily habitats. So I'm excited about that part. I'm excited about having a way to shut Tuco out of the studio when I need to. I think I'll probably make the studio space something that Tuco is welcome in most of the time, but I can close him out if I need to. Same with the bedroom and living, and then the living room will be like, well, there's not really a good way to keep Tuco out of there, so it can just be cat land. Aw, yeah. Yeah, I think Tuco does calibrate his meows to hit my soft spot. I don't know where Tuco is right now. Like, a part of me is glad to have the reprieve from his pestering, but then I'm also worried about where he is. Like, oh, is he all right? Or, did he get into something? But he probably just found somewhere that's good to hang out. Ah ha ha ha. Oh, no, that's exactly not what I'm trying to do. James is like, oh, do I want to move near my friends that moved away. No, 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 no. I'm trying to get out of the tech bubble, not follow it around. So I'm doing the opposite of that. I'm moving somewhere I don't know anybody. It's going to be great. Yeah, no, I don't want that, because I've actually just, and this is like independent from the living situation, but I've actually just been really, really unhappy with the whole social scene in the Bay Area, and there are a bunch of reasons for that, and some of it is related to like intrinsic qualities of the like tech bubble and the stuff around that, and some of it's just just probably my own personal frustrations and stuff that I've had enough of. But like I'm trying to get away from that. Like I don't really want to follow around the tech folks. I'm trying, I don't even want to like go out of my way to tell people that I know where I'm moving, because I just kind of need something different at this point. Like I'm interested in making connections with people based on common goals and interests at this point, because I'm really, really burned out on connecting with people because they seem cool or because they think I seem cool or something. And then it turns out we don't actually want the same things. And in fact, we want really different things. And we even have conflicting goals. Like, I'm just getting burned out on that. I'm too old for that. So, like, I need to be trying to find people where we are actually on the same page about what we are trying to do. And then I can look for the folks where I'm actually compatible in some kind of interpersonal way on top of that. So, because yeah, I'm tired of finding people where like, oh, you like the cool tech widgets? Oh, I like the cool tech widgets too. And like, oh, you have some of the LGBTQ letters, and oh, I have some of the LGBTQ letters. But like, other than that, we want completely different things. And I'm so tired of that. It's exhausting. So yeah. And I'm totally not interested in just going out in the middle of nowhere either, because I don't intrinsically want to have that like isolationism as a goal. I want to find community that's actually based on sustainable infrastructure, and to me that says a city. It's like the opposite of like a camp or something where you're going somewhere and just trying to inhabit it temporarily. Like I want something that is designed to be I want something that's just designed to potentially have a future. I don't want something that is designed to not have a future, right? So I'm trying to go to a city that's actually a city, that actually isn't there just because it has a bunch of like rich tech weirdos in it, but actually has its own thing that it does that is allowed to be freestanding. And I'm just trying to have my own little place there. I'm not trying to take over anything. I'm just trying to integrate into it. I'm not trying to like sit on top of it or sit next to it. I'm trying to like be in there, That's the goal. So, and I'm nervous because there's still some uncertainty. Like I don't know, there's still a possibility that it's not going to work out, and I don't totally know about timing or whatever. But it's looking like I'm trying to buy a house, and that might actually work out in early January. And so, and it's looking like I can probably stay here another couple of months, and so I can do an orderly move from here to there. That would be pretty nice. Because the move is going to be complicated, and I've already started boxing stuff up, and I know it still looks terrible and messy in here, because it always looks terrible and messy, but my terrible mess has been shifting from like trying to keep it organized so that I can use the shop to trying to pack it up so that I can actually move it. And I expect it's going to be complicated for a bunch of reasons, partly because there's just a bunch of stuff, partly because some of it's delicate, and partly because I've got this cat that I need to move with me at some point, and partly because I'm running servers here, which I want to move in an orderly fashion. So I'm probably going to do that in a couple of stages in January. Yeah. Just responding to a random comment from Station 240 who says, it doesn't make sense to me to locate most of the tech work in one area. Yeah, right? It's totally... it's one of those things where if you look closely at it, it exposes the hidden motives of what's really going on. Like, it's... like that's part of what makes the market exclusive, right? You're adding this like economic filter for the people who can stay and get to the Bay Area, and it doesn't need to be that way, but that's the way a lot of the businesses are set up. Just like I think it started that way with the whole like Silicon Valley trend, and for a while it was maybe useful when like we had significantly less technology for remote working, but at this point, the only excuse not to offer remote work is having a bad corporate culture that doesn't facilitate remote work. So, like that, yeah, that totally seems like something to fix. Oh yeah, totally. Anne points out that science is, as a community, has done a much better job with this than the like software tech world so far. Totally. Yeah, I think some folks are working on changing that. I've got a friend actually. My yeah, I don't know. Like it seems to be a common theme. I have friends here who are also interested in um, just trying to make remote work much easier and more common, and to themselves get more into remote work. And like, I mean, personally, I'm at this point where I think if I wanted to do remote tech work, I mean, I've found jobs like that in the past. I could probably find jobs like that in the future if I needed to, but like, that's hard to do unless you like have existing projects of that nature that you can point to, or people like know of your work from elsewhere or something. Like a lot of companies are really resistant to remote work when they don't need to be, and so that's certainly something that's worth changing. And yeah, I hope we can, I mean, for a lot of reasons do that, both so that cities can grow more sustainably, and so that we don't have to waste as much fuel in cars, and so that people can I mean, just the impact on how cities grow and how communities can be structured seems super important, because like right now people get so much of their community from work, and they, at least the way I'm used to things being in my country, there's very little opportunity for community in your immediate area unless you go out of your way to like meet your neighbors and like do events and stuff with them. It's like maybe you have like a local church group or something, but a lot of the like, default community just happens through your coworkers who don't necessarily live nearby, and who you spend, like 60 hours a week, interacting with or whatever. Yeah. Right? Starlight says, I want to have the option to be socially overstimulated. Yeah, I feel you there. I feel like if I lived out in the middle of nowhere, there would be a bunch of things that I would worry about with that. So like I really don't like driving. I don't currently have a car, and I'd really like to not have a car. I dislike driving for a bunch of reasons. Mostly just that I feel like I'm really bad at it, and I don't trust myself to move large objects around like that, when I can barely see where they are. It's like how do we drive? How do we park without like cameras on top of our cars anyway? So like I don't know. I mean I'm sure I could get over that if I had a car that I liked again, but yeah, I mean I used to drive when I lived in I lived in Silicon Valley for several years before moving to San Francisco, and I had a car there, and I used to drive to work every day. But it was all just, I mean, I probably could have biked to work. I probably could have taken public transit and liked it better. I mean, it was partly because things were so spread out there, and because of where I lived, but it was partly just because people told me that I needed a car, and I never liked cars, and I think if I can make it a goal to not have a car, it's something to do. So I don't know. I want to get one of those cargo trailers for my bike so I can get stuff from the hardware store. So yeah, I mean, like where I'm living right now is not super great for any of that either. Like I'm close enough to get to San Francisco on public transit pretty quickly, but the actual immediate area around where I'm living is pretty empty. Like there are a couple of restaurants nearby, and I can get to a grocery store without too much trouble. But if I want to go to like a hardware store or something, that's pretty far away. If I want, pretty much anything social, that's well, go to downtown like Oakland or go to San Francisco or something. So like this particular area is mostly, it's mostly office buildings. So, uh, that could be better too. And I mean, I feel like this has already been kind of like a toll on my mental health versus when I lived like in a city and I had more people around me just day to day. I actually really liked living at the intersection of a couple of busy public transit lines. And it was like pretty loud all the time, but I didn't really mind that. I think it might just be the kind of noise that I don't mind, or it might be because I have tinnitus anyway, so I don't hear a lot of it. But like, I didn't mind living next to those train lines, and it was nice just being around a bunch of people. And so, yeah, this place I'm trying to move to is similarly a little bit loud, which is also part of why it's less expensive. But I think otherwise it's walking distance to a lot of good stuff, so that should be nice. Right? A lot of companies don't want remote work because it encourages having a life outside of work. I mean, that's true. I think there are also some data that show that remote workers often work more than people who work at an office. But there's certainly a perception that remote work has, you have people that are like less dedicated to, being there all the time or whatever. So, I mean, I think that's probably why people work more, is they're trying to overcompensate for that perception. Yeah, I mean, I do live in a relatively noisy place now. That's part of why I moved here too. It's like, that's one of the things that I have a pretty easy time tolerating. So I am happy to live somewhere that's a little cheaper because it's noisier. So that's part of what I'm doing at this new place too. Yeah, and I mean, okay, so that actually brings up another point. So one of the other problems I have here is there is no quiet place to record audio. There's no quiet place for audio, and it's been really frustrating. I mean, I'm sure it frustrates all of you that have to listen to it more than it frustrates me, but I really want to make videos that have really clear audio, and I just cannot do that here. Like, I think the closest I could do is to take a portable microphone into the closet and turn off all the equipment in there. There's a little bit of sound isolation I put up, or at least some sound absorption panels, or not even that, just some like foam. I've been learning more about the different grades of like sound absorption and dispersion and insulation lately too. Yeah, the train sounds are not bad, but there's a lot more equipment noise here than I'd like. I've been doing my best to keep the equipment racks quiet, but there's still a bunch of fans, and I don't like that at all. I really want a fanless recording studio. So I'm gonna try really hard to do that at this new place. So this new place, it's a house. It'll have multiple rooms. The one I'm trying to buy has a detached garage, which should be pretty cool. I feel like that's kind of a nice way to have, I don't know, like if I'm like spray painting or gluing stuff, like I don't have to worry at all about the fumes like going in the house. If I, want to like weld or something, there's a big concrete pad outside I can use. I've really missed not having a place to weld, so that should be really nice. Yeah, the wiring is really old, but I'm probably gonna have to redo a bunch of it anyway, so that's probably fine. Yeah, so I've been, I don't know, just like deep in, reading city codes and looking up building materials and just trying to figure out what to do and like how to adapt this space to be a good place for all this. And because my plan really here is not to fundamentally change what I'm doing so much as to try to figure out how to reconcile my goals with each other. Because I want to be, I think I still want to be, trying to make this video content that I've been struggling to make for a while now and to do these live streams. But in addition to the space, I've been struggling with just like some of the subject matter and the context around that. Like, I feel really burned out on doing just kind of straightforward show and tell kind of DIY videos. I want to do videos that have more interesting kind of narrative structure to them, but also videos that have, more of like a social purpose to them, which isn't to say that I want to be making like angry talking head political videos, because I don't really want to be doing that either. But I do want to be making videos that I think thoughtfully acknowledge their context in a way that I think a lot of technology lacks right now. So that was something that I was trying to do even before my roommate moved out. That was like the main thing I was trying to do. Like, I feel like after my last edited video, I kind of, tried to really clear my drawing board and start over on this new format, and like, how can I do something that isn't like a DIY show and tell video? And then while that was all going on, my roommate moved out, and I had even more problems with Tuco, and then I had some like health stuff that I had to deal with. But then, I don't know, like all of that is so much better now. I feel like I'm just rambling in this unstructured way, so maybe I'll try to take a deep breath and check the chat. Mr. Radar says, get Tuco a kitten to play with. Yeah, I don't know what age of cat would be best to adopt, but I've certainly thought about adopting another cat. The whole 3-cat situation I had here a while ago was pretty bad, but there were a lot of reasons for that. Like, it was, I don't know, like I think those cats all didn't get along with each other very well in general. And then the way the space is set up is bad for 1 cat and 2 humans. It was super bad for 3 cats and 2 humans. But yeah, I think if I can set up the space differently. So my plan, this house I'm trying to buy has 3 bedrooms. And so I'm trying to have one extra room that I can use for like a roommate or a guest room or something. I might rent it out, as much as I don't want to be a landlady. But yeah, I don't know. I want like an extra place for a person to stay, whatever shape that takes. But then I want like some kind of modest bedroom for myself, and then I'm probably going to use the biggest room as the recording studio kind of room. And then that room I want to put in just like the best sound insulation I can, because the house itself is in a pretty noisy location, but I think if it's actually a place that I'm planning on living in longer term, then I can invest in some good sound isolation and just make a nice studio kind of room. And so that's where I can do these streams in, that's where I can record voiceovers in, I can actually make a quiet soundtrack for videos, I can actually just have like electronics ASMR stuff that isn't all fan noise, so that should be nice. I'm getting orders to go on the air more often. I'll take that under consideration. I mean, part of what I'm talking about is all the reasons it's been really hard to stream often lately, but that's the whole reason I'm trying to set up this new space. I mean, my whole goal here is to make some place where it's easy for me to do both streams and edited videos, and I keep running into problems that get in the way of that, and so this is really my kind of last straw at, well, there's too many problems here. I can't really justify staying here and fixing all the individual problems. Like, it's loud, it's expensive, it's hard to get along with my cat here, it's hard to have a roommate, it's too close to the Bay Area. So there isn't really that much to like about this place anymore. I mean, it's got inexpensive gigabit internet, which is great, but the place I'm moving to also has an expensive gigabit internet, because there are a lot of cities that have that now. So like that's not something I have to, specifically look for as much. A lot of people suggest, it looks like I need to drink some water, probably. I mean, but what I've got here is coffee, so that's what I'm gonna drink. Yeah, a lot of people also like to suggest where I should move, like, oh, you should go to my favorite city, you should move next door to me or something. And, well, no, that's creepy, I won't, sorry. I mean, but seriously though, like, a lot of the reasons that people like places and would suggest them in my network of people on the internet are also specifically the reasons that I wouldn't want to live there. And this is part of the larger process of realizing that my goals are somewhat different than a lot of the goals of the people that I found myself surrounded by. So this is me doing a better job of identifying my goals and actually trying to move to a place that's consistent with them. So yeah, so why haven't I been streaming? I mean, well, like a lot of what I stream here is I want to do a project while I collect footage for an edited video. And right now I have a lot of footage already, which I'm trying to make edited videos out of. And the bottleneck here is not that I need more raw footage, it's that I need more like writing. I need more narrative that I can attach the footage to. So when I'm sitting down to actually make progress on edited videos, which I haven't even been able to do that much of recently because I've been distracted by like house and moving related stuff. When I was able to do more of that, that was mostly like taking notes about topics and researching things and trying to write scripts and that kind of thing. And so, yeah, I don't know. I guess what I'm really trying to say is I still struggle to really find that area where I can both do the edited videos and the live streams and have them work with each other instead of against each other. It's hard to live stream the editing. I don't know how I would live stream like the writing. Like that would be awkward and boring and terrible. I mean, stuff like this honestly helps if like we can talk and have some brainstorm, some ideas, whatever. That helps, but it can't be most of it, you know? It's got to be like the side dish, not the main dish. And yeah, James is wondering about the house layout. Audio recording in little projects in the bedroom and big projects in the garage. I mean, yeah, basically, I think it'll mostly boil down to I want the kind of studio area to be stuff that is like quiet and clean, and the garage to be stuff that's like noisy and messy. And I've been really preoccupied with trying to figure out where all the equipment is going to go. Some of you are probably aware that there's a lot of equipment behind this. There's, I don't know, usually a camera I can point over there, but my camera situation is kind of weird right now. Oh gosh. Yeah, I think my USB is flaking out, which is yet another reason to recable stuff. Right now I have a lot of wires that are long just to get the signals from this area to that area. I'm still pointing at stuff you can't see. Just a second. Overhead view? Oh gosh, that's not even a great location for that camera right now. Can we turn on this camera? So Tuco Flyer right now is not extremely operational, but I think we can maybe at least use it a tiny bit. Okay, so there are 2 winches right now that are not working, which is a pretty big problem, and it means that I can't really drive the camera around, but the gimbal does work. So here's where I am right now. A bunch of stuff is either not working or in the process of being packed up, and so this is a bit of a terrible mess, but these 2 cabinets of equipment are running everything here pretty much. The little one has the network server, firewall, and other network equipment and whatever. Slightly distracted by chat here. Yeah, so there's all this stuff that's actually like around the filming area. Just roughly speaking, this is kind of what I would put in the like interior of the house, like the studio kind of room. So there'd be like electronics equipment. I might even try to make like a like a little sound isolation box for the power supply and the oscilloscope, because those are both pretty loud. But yeah, those would need to be close by because they'd need to be close to where I'm filming, so I can't put them elsewhere really. And I would need to have monitors so that I can see what I'm streaming. And usually the middle monitor is the computer I'm working on. I think I was updating the computer, so it might be asleep right now. And then the bottom one is the microscope, which is just off right now. Yeah, and then just a cheapo desk that I've been working from. Oh, I have to swivel it around. That's the. This gimbal doesn't have full 360 rotation, so there's a little spot that I can't reach unless I swivel it around. I've still got this awful orb thing, which my plan was to do some last photography of it and then disassemble it. But I haven't actually disassembled it yet because I hadn't quite committed to being done photographing it, but I think I should just take it apart. Yeah, anyway, this big rack has a few computers and a bunch of video equipment. So anyway, I think what I'm going to do is put that rack in the garage, or possibly in some kind of like outbuilding, or possibly in a closet. But the garage seems nice because then I can cool it separately, and I can have kind of, you know, it's like a little easier to keep it more isolated from the rest of the house in terms of like power and fire protection and, you know, what other natural disasters, I guess flood protection. Seems like it'll be a little easier to build like a pretty secure area for the servers if it's not like just in the corner of the room. But yeah, I think what I might do is have that like in the corner of the garage or something, and then have this in the studio, and then have them connected via cables. There's already just like a lot of long cabling. It's mostly HDMI and SDI. I was looking into maybe using HD-based-T for some of that because I've got 4K signals right now, which are kind of length limitations right now. Oh, do I have a basement? Good question. No basement. Yeah, basements are pretty cool. Yeah, I think some people have basements in this city I'm moving to, but it's not the place I'm getting. So yeah, this is the winch I'd been disassembling and reassembling on the previous stream. I think this one is ready to reassemble. I just hadn't gotten there. Between the last stream and this one, I had a second winch failure. So there are currently 2 winches down, which it's just a bummer. And I'm not really sure what to do about that. Oh gosh, I keep trying to change the channels, but this thing, for some reason, does not have a connection. So the USB cables are also a bit of a problem with the longness. I've got some USB hubs over there, and then some long cables from the USB hubs to the PCs. It seems like USB 2 over Cat 5 is a much easier to find thing, so I ordered a USB over Cat 5 adapter that I want to evaluate, and if it works out pretty well for the devices I'm using, I'll use a few of those. How do I even use this without the switcher? There we go. Yeah, so lots of people like to suggest that I should move to their favorite city. Lots of folks seem to be moving to Berlin, which is just like it seems like at this point, that's just like one of those trendy cities. Like if you're a tech person trying to get away from the Bay Area, it's like, oh, you should move to Berlin or New York or whatever. And of course, they're just taking exactly the same terrible culture and terrible gentrification and terrible property prices and just moving into those cities. I mean, I think it happens at different rates, but yeah, I don't know. I'm not really inspired by that. What else is there? Yeah, Seattle. And then also it seems like a bunch of people are going to LA. But I don't know. LA's never really seemed like a place for me. It feels like it's going in the wrong direction. Like, I don't want to be about kind of showiness like that, and cars, and, you know, kind of style over substance. I feel like, I don't know how much that's a necessity there versus how much it's just kind of like the prevailing culture, but like, I don't want to be moving closer to that, you know? So, I don't know. I'm optimistic about this. So having a place for Tuco and me to be separate and together, and to hopefully enjoy both of those a little bit more. Yeah, I don't super want to move really far away. Like, even like, I don't know. Like, I used to think, oh, I should just move to Thailand, or move to, you know, Japan or Germany or something, or even move to Canada. But like, there are many reasons I don't really want to do that. Like, I mean, I don't know, like, I feel like I've struggled my entire life to feel like anywhere is home, and just continuing to move to these far-flung places is not going to help that. So I don't necessarily want to just jump really far away. I want to go somewhere a little closer that's more like fine-tuning where I'm at, rather than just completely choosing something else. So, like, I am staying in California, which is something I'm happy with. Like, I actually really like California, and so I feel some connection to California as home, because California got me health insurance before anybody else would. So I think that's pretty cool. LA's worse than the Bay Area, but they're both quite terrible. Yeah, that's the impression I get. I mean, I've visited LA, I've never lived there. I've had friends who lived there in the past and didn't like it. I have some friends who moved there recently, but I feel like we're definitely not like on the same page about where we want to live. So that's just like more evidence that like it's not for me. Yeah, but having a garage space will be nice, because then, you know, I can do kind of dirtier stuff like woodworking and metalworking and stuff out there without having to worry about all of that inside. Um, I can do, yeah, I can do like welding on this big concrete pad that's outside. I'll have like a little tiny backyard, a little tiny front yard. So trying not to count my chickens before they hatch, but I'm also pretty excited about all the possibility. And so I should still be able to run diode zone. I I don't exactly know what the timing of the downtime is going to be like, but it's looking like probably I'll have like a short downtime late January, um, where I'll just have to, you know, have things as prepared as I can on both ends, and then just like rent a truck and throw the server in the truck and take it to the new place. Um, and so I'll have to do that sometime in late January probably. And I'm trying to have a somewhat better kind of data center location. So, you know, I've already got a somewhat nice like enclosed rack, but you know, it would be nice to have something with, you know, a bit more intentionality to the way the like electrical and data cabling is set up, and something that's in just like a separate area. Like, I feel like my ideal data center thing would be just like a little tiny concrete shed or something next to the garage. And so that's one of the possibilities I've been looking into, is like, oh, what are all the building code requirements and stuff, you know, and how much would that actually cost? But yeah, I mean, that would also be something where, you know, a lot of these things that I'm trying to do, where I want to relatively inexpensively run a tiny data center in my home, that's something that I'd like, you know, I feel like other people might want to do, and that I could, you know, share that. So it feels like that could be an interesting project to document as well. But I don't want to like hold up the move in order to document the move, you know, so I need to find a good balance between like just doing the thing and documenting the thing. but yeah, I feel like my ideal situation for that would be to have some kind of relatively separate area that has at least like the servers and UPSs, like anything that is loud or a fire hazard could be in a separate area, and to have just like a bunch of. So today I learned about Cat7 cabling, and now I want a bunch of it. Because like, individually shielded pairs. Like, where has that been all my life? It's like, could you run SATA across that? I mean, I think at the very least, having the ability to run 10 gig Ethernet and HD base T would be nice. So yeah, just having like a big bundle of Cat7 running between a little separate data center area and a nice sound isolated studio, that feels like exactly what I want for this. And yeah, then hopefully I can do this thing that I've been trying to do, but with better audio quality and a little bit better mental health. Hopefully much better mental health with the ability to actually, close the door when my cat is being demanding and not continuously worrying about paying Bay Area rents. Because yeah, the rent here sucks, and I thought I could make it worthwhile, but I think I've exhausted all the reasons, or all the ways that I thought I could actually do that. Oh yeah, so Tuco Flyer, and there's a bunch of stuff we could do with Tuco Flyer. I feel like there's, at this point, a pretty long list of things that I've learned from this project. So both in terms of like, if I was redoing the winches, how would I design them to be a better winch? And in terms of, in what ways did my expectations for how the project and Tuco would interact diverge from reality? Like, I feel like a lot of, I guess this was probably something I was talking about while the mic wasn't working earlier, but a lot of the problem I was having with Tuco Flyer and having, just like having the ability to make good progress on it, is that this thing would happen where I would start working on something, and the minute I would switch gears and start trying to do something new, Tuco would start following me and trying to get interested in that also, and or he would be trying to distract me from computer stuff so that I could throw the bolt for him, or whatever. And so I would always be in this situation where Tuco and the project were at odds, and I don't know, like some of that is just, I need to have boundaries with my cat, and so, I try to work on that. But some of it really was that my expectation that, I could just have this robot that follows Tuco around while I'm working on stuff, that doesn't work super well, because Tuco just has two modes. He's going to sit quietly in one space, or he's just going to absolutely terrorize and investigate anything he possibly can. And so when he's in the sit quietly mode, the camera doesn't need to move around a lot, but it does need to be something I can position easily. And then when he's in the terrorize everything mode, I can't get any work done anyway, so it's kind of useless to be fussing with the camera at that point. So fiber has become accessible. You mean like fiber internet, or between data equipment and other data equipment? I do have a little bit of fiber here. I've got one 10 gig fiber, which I was using for a while to keep my file server in the closet and then keep my editing machine out here. And yeah, that's definitely gotten affordable, the kind of short range multi-mode fiber for sure. But that stuff, like 10 gig, you could even run that over copper at this point. Yeah, part of why I was interested in copper that is 10 gig capable is that I've been looking into HD base T for running video. Got a bunch of video that I would need to get from the rack equipment to out here for the monitors that I'm looking at, as well as for my editing desk needs video and audio. And right now the editing desk is a big limitation because it needs DisplayPort cables running from the monitors to the editing machine. I don't really want to put the editing machine in the really quiet room, because even though it's a pretty quiet computer, it's still got a bunch of fans, and so maybe I compromise and maybe I put the editing machine on the other side of a wall in a different room. But that kind of complexifies my situation a bit more because now I have equipment in more places. So if I can use some kind of HD-base-T extender to reduce the number of places that I need equipment in and have the editing machine in the garage with all the noisy stuff, and then have the monitors in the quiet place, that would be cool. So I'm looking into doing that. Oh gosh, what else has been going on? Yeah, so I guess one of the other responses to the, oh, you need to stream more, you should be streaming all the time, is, I mean, that's actually a lot of what I've been having trouble with, though, is that, like, when things are going badly and I'm having trouble with other stuff, so, like, the other stuff that was going wrong in terms of figuring out my housing and figuring out, like roommate stuff and health stuff, and I was just, like, stressed out about other stuff. And then I was pretty low on energy for doing social interactions. And I know it often seems like it's easy for me to just talk to people and do these streams, but it's something I have to be in kind of a specific mood to be able to tolerate. And that's something that I think varies a lot depending on just like my overall mental health and just overall how hard things are. Because I know there was a period for a while where I was streaming pretty much every day. Partly that was because I was working for a company that was supporting me in doing that, and that was like when I was working for Senrio. I think I had probably had some stretches where I was streaming pretty frequently. Other than that, like when I wasn't working for Senrio, but was doing a lot of like Tuco Flyer assembly. But like, what do those have in common? Like, I wasn't stressed out. Like, Tuco Flyer was a good distraction where I just kind of knew what I was doing and could just go in one direction. I didn't have to constantly like think about the big picture. And then the Senrio stuff was a little bit like that too, because I could just kind of focus on one project or a small number of projects. And I had this company that was, helping pay my rent. And so like I didn't have to worry so much about the big picture. But when I'm more worried about, how do I make videos that are helping rather than hurting in this weird tech bubble that we're in, and how do I pay my rent in the coming year, and how do I find a sustainable place to live, and how do I get along with my cat? And when I'm just like overwhelmed by that stuff, it's hard to also have energy to talk to people on the internet that I don't really know and have this parasocial relationship thing that is kind of hard to deal with sometimes. So, I mean, I know a lot of folks like the streams, and I like being able to do them, and I don't want to, like, give up doing the streams just because they're hard. I want to try to take better care of myself so that I can do the hard things. And so I think part of that is stuff that I can make better with this move, and then part of that is just stuff I've been doing anyway, I feel like I had some just like personal like mental health breakthroughs lately in terms of like I had this surgery that I was worried about for a long time that was not a big deal really, but I was like anxious about it, and so I feel like I was a lot more worried about that than I think I realized I was. And so after that was done and now it was like easy and I could recover and whatever, I could just relax a bunch, and so I think that helped a lot. And then I also just had this like problem with my hormone therapy that I fixed kind of recently, and that helped a lot. I think I was just, I don't know, my body is like just weird sometimes, and it's like I've tried a bunch of different kinds of hormone replacement therapy. Like I've tried the pills and the patches and the injections, and I'd been on the pills for a long time, but I think they just weren't working super well. Like my body wasn't absorbing them for whatever reason, and I switched to the injections again recently, and that actually made a really big difference to just my overall, just like feeling okay, like my overall mental health. And yeah, who knew? Hormones, right? Important. David's wondering about air conditioning. Yeah, the place I'm moving has air conditioning. I expect that to be a bigger deal. So yeah, it'll be warmer and colder than I get here, but I don't know. I'm not that worried about that. I've lived in places that have other climates, and I'm sure I'll get used to it. The Bay Area has an uncharacteristically mild climate, and it's nice, but I'm not that attached to it. So, Aiden's wondering if I will show the move. Yeah, I don't know. Good question. I mean, I don't think I'm gonna be like live streaming my move. I feel like right now I need to be mindful of my own boundaries and to have a bit more privacy around the actual space for a while. But I do I do want to show at least parts of the process. Like I think a bunch of the equipment stuff is interesting. I eventually want to show maybe more of the area where I'll be, but I'm still kind of like working out what my boundaries should be around that. And I don't want to just jump into having no boundaries because that is a recipe for sadness. So I want to kind of err on the side of having more boundaries at first. So I don't super want to be like live streaming the move or like showing you exactly where I'm going or any of that. But I do want to find a good way to share at least some of the interesting parts of it. And so I think there's going to be a process of doing some build out where I mean, it could range from like taking this rack that I already have, changing out a bunch of the equipment, putting it up on cinder blocks in the garage and pointing a portable AC unit at it, or it could be something more complicated, but whatever that process is, I think I'll probably be wanting to document a bunch of that. And my limitations there are going to be less around my own boundaries and more around practicality. Just like, I do need to try to limit the amount of downtime I have on all this equipment because I'm running Diode Zone here and I'm trying to use it for my own storage and streaming and everything else. And so it's again this kind of chicken and egg thing. Like I have to at least do some of the setup work to bring you this stream off of the stream, but then I can try to do the recursive stuff sometimes. And yeah, I don't necessarily just want to like live stream a time lapse of the entire thing for boundaries reasons, but like if I can find part of it that I'd like to, like, you know, I could probably put a GoPro in the garage or something and or figure out how I do the like the sound isolation. There are certainly parts of it that I'd like to show, but like this is me pushing against the thing where everyone on the internet wants you to share everything 100% of the time. And I know that's just something people on the internet are going to do, but it's also my responsibility to say no. Hardware upgrade. I don't know if it was an upgrade. It was more of just the replacing damaged equipment. Oh, that's interesting. Denny's comment about pills not being effective for some people. Yeah, I don't know if that's related to what was going on for me with pills, but it certainly could be. I mean, I was on a dose that my doctor thought would be plenty effective, but it just seemed like when I actually did blood tests, then the levels were tiny, and so that wasn't working. And yeah, I used to be on patches, the like transdermal patches that you put on your skin for a while. But then I eventually would get allergies to them. Like I would get contact dermatitis, get rashes. So I think my body is just picky about chemicals sometimes, and like, you know, certain things I'll get sensitive to after repeated exposures. So I don't know. And in the past when I did injections, that was fine. The only reason I stopped there was I got really needle shy after hitting a nerve when I did intramuscular injections. But the ones I'm on now are transdermal, so it uses a smaller needle and it goes into the subcutaneous fat instead of into your muscle, and there aren't nerves that you might hit, so I've been having a much better time with it. Right now, my only problem with it is that it's expensive on my current insurance, but I'm trying to change that, and even if I can't, it's still worthwhile because it actually works, so. Oh yeah, definitely sublingual if you have pills, because it's safer on your, what is it, your liver? I forget exactly what it's toxic to, but yeah. But I think even though I was doing pills sublingually. It wasn't super working that well. Yeah, well, I've definitely been trying to nerd out about house stuff. Like I've been reading city codes and trying to find parcel maps and reading about yeah, just like what I need to do in terms of I don't know. I guess there's a bunch of different possibilities, right? I've been saying, I might just like put equipment in the garage. I might put it in a closet or something. I might, but like I feel like it would be useful to me to have some level of both physical security and like disaster preparedness isolation between the equipment closet and the rest of the house, so that if, say, my server catches on fire, I don't have to worry about like Tuco breathing server smoke, for example. Like it would be nice for the living area and the data area to be as separate as I can arrange for them to be. And the house has its own air conditioner unit. But I feel like if I rely on that for the server equipment, then I'm probably going to end up with like server equipment that isn't especially cold and a really cold rest of the house. So I don't know how much I want to do that. I might just try to build a separate kind of insulated area that has a portable AC unit for the servers. I was also thinking a little bit about solar, although I haven't looked. I need to do some more planning about that. There's a bit of tree shade I'll have to deal with, but it might still be worthwhile to install solar. Oh yeah, that's a good point. That if your hormones are out of whack, there are a bunch of problems. Like the osteoporosis risk is a big thing people mention. But yeah, it's also just bad for your mental health, which is I think part of what I was experiencing. This year I think I made a few changes that helped. Like I got on some new antidepressants earlier, which was definitely a help. But then the hormones were a big help, and then just like getting over this like. Oh gosh, I don't even know how much I want to talk about the surgery stuff, because everyone assumes it's like the surgery, and that's not at all what I'm talking about. But like, it was a surgery that I needed that was relatively routine, but I was worried about it, and it went fine. And so that was just a weight off my anxiety brain. So yeah. And now my anxiety brain is mostly just focusing on house-related stuff, like, oh, what about all the obscure reasons that my trying to buy a house paperwork might fail in some way? But I think most of that's working out fine. I'm just anxious. Like, oh no, what if there's actually some terrible problem that I haven't found? But I mean, I feel pretty good about talking to the inspector and like looking at the problems and getting a sense for like what's what, and I feel pretty happy about that. It's like a pretty old house, but it's in pretty all right shape, and I feel pretty handy about it. And it feels pretty maintainable. And stuff that needs to be sturdy, like the foundation and the plumbing, seems fine. The electrical work could use some work, but that's work I don't mind doing or having done, because I feel like I could probably have opinions about that anyway. So. Oh yeah, I never really finished talking about Tuco Flyer, did I? So Tuco Flyer, I feel like we've learned a bunch from, or at least I've learned a bunch from. I could certainly have an interesting time just designing a brand new winch right now, and it would probably have two motors. It'd probably have, one relatively low power motor to move the spool, and then a high power, probably brushless motor to actually run like a little capstan that actually applies the torque to the cord. I'd probably make the enclosure out of metal and use metal shafts if I can, because as much as it was a fun exercise to try to do like this whole thing using like 3D printed parts and off-the-shelf metal parts, that really was a limitation in just having it run smoothly. So I could definitely make the whole thing run better if I had a garage and a small lathe, which is maybe a thing I could do in the near future. So I could certainly do like a winch V2 where I actually use some tools that I could put in my garage to turn metal, and that could be nice. But then, of course, there's the thing where if I'm leaving this giant concrete box, well, where am I running the Tuco Flyer? So, like, a large part of the reason this project has all been kind of weird is it's tailored to this weird space. It doesn't really fit most people's houses. It's also not super well tailored to just the way Tuco usually operates. And like now I know more about Tuco, and Tuco and I have had 5 years to get to know each other in this space. And so, I mean, there's maybe a few things we could do differently. The whole like two-dimensional flying robot idea, I can imagine that still being pretty useful as like a photography robot in the garage. So something that you could just anchor at the four corners of the the ceiling. I was going to say the roof, in the inside of the ceiling. You could put these on the inside of the ceiling of the garage and kind of hoist around a camera. For something like that, I think you'd want a much smaller system because you'd have a lot less vertical height to work with. So the camera itself would need to be much smaller. Like right now, I have this big dangly camera, which works well in this very tall space because I want to kind of dangle it around furniture. But if I have a garage that's mostly empty, then it would make more sense to have maybe like high tension cables along the ceiling and then like some kind of different system to drop down a small camera pod of some sort that can gimbal around. But like Tuco is not going to go in the garage, so that's not Tuco Flyer at that point. That's just like garage camera experience of some sort. And so if we're keeping this about Tuco, well, I want to build out the living room in this house as like a nice zone for cats, but that also lends itself to really different kind of camera situations. Like I don't want in a normal ceiling height living room, there's not really a lot of place for Tuco Flyer. I could do something that kind of goes along the ceiling with wires, but I feel like it would be hard to install that with sufficient cable tension to keep that up out of the way. And if you did have that much tension, it would be kind of difficult to maintain and difficult to run safely. So I think that mostly just lends itself to kind of different situations. Like maybe inside we want something that's more like Let's Robot, like little rolly Raspberry Pi robots or something. And like okay, that's been done. I don't need to do that. That's just we can deploy a thing that already exists. And so yeah, I don't know. Maybe there's something we can do inside that's worth doing with the winches. But it's definitely a really different environment, and it lends itself to different solutions to different problems. Yeah, I mean, it seems interesting to me to try to do something with the winches that is still in that kind of large volume kind of camera space. I mean, one thing that I find that would be an improvement is that we could have this be outdoors, right? Like, I mean, a lot of people have, access to outdoor space. If I could make a thing that you could deploy quickly outdoors, that would be a non-drone based flying camera. That could be interesting, right? And I could actually have space to set that up. It would still not be Tuco Flyer, because Tuco is not really an outdoor cat, but I could still name things after him. I don't know. So yeah, I mean, if I wanted to put this outdoors, I guess if I wanted to build new winches, I could design winches that are either designed to go outside or designed to be inside, but then like exit through a window or something. I don't know. I don't know. That'd be an interesting space to explore, right? Could it be like a little crawler kind of robot where you attach some cables to some trees outside, and then it just like crawls around with a camera, and it's more self-contained. So I don't know. Circus tents. I don't have circus tents here, but I mean that would exist. Yeah, I mean I like the idea of adapting it to be something that would be applicable to my new space, but maybe also to just more people's homes, because I'd be living in a more normal home. Yeah, Anne says I'd probably just have like multiple cameras for where places that Tuco likes to hang out. Yeah, that's probably more of what I'd want to do. I mean, I could probably use those. There were those like nice Zoom video conferencing cameras that we got donated a while ago, and we could probably set some of those up as Tuco cameras in the living room. That might be really nice. Yeah, there's a bunch of, every time we talk about Tuco Flyer in the design space, there's a bunch of other cable-driven robots people like to bring up. There's like some university prototypes that go really fast. There's, I mean, the most common example is like the ones that are in football stadiums. So yeah, I mean, it's certainly not a new idea. It's just, you know, this was just my version of it. I wanted to try it here, and that's what we did. Aw. Thomas says best of luck to you and to your endeavors, and they moved last year and it was awful and awesome. That's about what I'm expecting here. I'm definitely expecting it to be both awful and hoping it's awesome. Yeah, I mean, I don't think it'll actually be as bad as my last move, because my last move was pretty bad. I'm hoping it's not. Because that was me moving fairly abruptly out of this pretty terrible place in San Francisco and having to put all my stuff in storage and then living in a temporary place with Tuco for a few weeks while I looked for this place. And the whole move was like I didn't really have the ability to pack stuff or plan for it properly because it was all done in a huge hurry. So yeah, it was really haphazard and messy, and a bunch of stuff got broken, and it was terrible. And so I'm trying to do a much better job of packing and organizing stuff beforehand. Yeah. There's a lot of stuff, but you know, cardboard boxes, right? My life is made of cardboard boxes now. Yeah, so I'm looking forward to it. I mean, I feel like the biggest problem I have with this current place is that it's always felt way too temporary. You know, they're not probably going to kick me out, but they're certainly going to raise the rent every year, and it was never affordable, so it's just always going to keep getting worse. You know, it's like I thought there could be some way to make that worthwhile, but it's just so stressful. Like even if I wanted to just even if I had enough reasons for it to be worth staying here, which I don't think I do overall. I mean, it feels like there's a bunch of little reasons not to stay. It just, I don't know, it just doesn't add up to it being worth just like scrambling to afford like this much rent every time. Like yeah, I don't know. And like I could get get hardware jobs again or something and be a firmware adult for some venture capital funded startup, and I don't know if I could do that. I'm just so burned out on that. It doesn't feel like my goals are aligned with that at all. So I don't know. We don't need to rant about that, but have I ranted about all the things I promised to rant about today? Am I behind on my ranting, or am I ahead? How have I been at this for an hour and a half already? Yeah, I mean, I guess my intention for this stream was it to be kind of like an open-ended, chatty, like, hi, it's been a while, nice to see you here kind of stream. And I think as I was saying during the part that didn't actually have audio, I could put this winch together. Oh yeah, I might have mentioned that, so I have these 4 winches for Tuco Flyer. 2 of them are currently broken. So the flyer camera is hanging from 2 working winches, but then Yeah, the other two are not even on the wall. One of them is here in pieces. Um, oh, the other one's over there. The cable is still attached, but the winch is disconnected. Um, and yeah, so this one, we just replaced the motor. The other one needs a new motor. It broke and I haven't taken it apart yet. The problem with these is, like, their weak link turns out to be this pre-made geared motor unit has a plastic worm gear, which cracks under load. And that's the weak link in this whole system. All the 3D printed parts and everything, and the weak link is this pre-manufactured plastic gear in these gearboxes. And it's just no good. And so looked into a bunch of options for that. There aren't really good standard replacements for this part because it's molded onto the shaft. I tried modeling and 3D printing a replacement using the strongest material I could 3D print here, and it was no good. It's a bit of a last-ditch effort, but I did order some prints in nylon from Shapeways of that modeled replacement gear that I made. I don't expect these to last very long, but they might be worth trying. So far, the only way I've successfully fixed this is by replacing the whole motor, which is just annoying and expensive. Like, the motor itself is fine, it's just this one gear that's broken. And I can't get the gears by themselves. I have to replace the whole gear motor, and the gear motor is not a great value to begin with. They're like $30 each or something, so. The gearboxes I have trouble getting. Yeah, I mean, I don't know that I can buy these gearboxes by themselves, and I've only found a couple of sources for the gear motors, and they're not really great. Like, you know, they're like kind of expensive for what they are, and the shipping is slow, and so cracks under load, what, 4 or 5 times now? 1, 2, yeah, like 3 or 4, I think, maybe 4 or 5. Yeah, definitely at least 3 of these have cracked. It's really bad. Well, and also, just to be clear, I don't mean the worm itself. I mean the worm gear, the gear that mates with the worm. So it looks a lot like a helical gear, and so I modeled it as a helical gear. But technically it's the worm gear. But it doesn't seem to quite be standard. So I ended up having to model one myself and have a 3D model of it now. Have I ever had any serious startup ideas? What is the startup that ends all startups? Is there a startup that ends capitalism? That's the kind of thing I used to think about when I was younger and more naive. Like, oh, I want to start a startup to do blah, 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 and talk about it with my friends at work. And I mean, I used to think about things in that terms, but I don't actually think that's a good idea anymore. Like, there might be things that I want to do that take the form of a business of some sort, but that's not really something that I feel like is a goal that I want at this point. And the whole thing where, you know, a bunch of people who don't necessarily have any direct experience with anything, but have gotten themselves into a position where they think they know what they're doing, they start generating ideas, and then they start selling the ideas to people that have money that they don't know what to do with, and to the people who have ideas without any basis, and the people who have extra money just meet each other and then throw the money into a giant pit. And like, I just don't see any reason to participate in that right now. So, yeah. I mean, it's interesting because, like, I feel like the common denominator in a lot of these, like, VC-backed startups is it's the way that they reach past what's actually, you know, in anyone's experience, and it's based on something that's kind of hopeful, and that's like where the risk comes from that the VCs are looking for, and they just see it as like a fancy investment. But then, like, that same exact kind of risky overreach is what the, like, founders often think is the value that they're bringing. When, you know, like, they see it as something concrete, like some knowledge or something, but really it's that kind of overconfidence that the VCs are actually buying. So that's my cynical view of startups. CNC ceiling camera. Yep, pretty much. Oh. I don't know that I understand Joel's question, but apparently I answered it, so all right. The startup to end capitalism is probably either joining government or overthrowing government. Yeah, a little of column A, a little of column B. But that does seem like more in the right direction. Yeah, I mean, I find myself much more interested in like kind of social and media issues right now than just like pure technology, which isn't to say that I'm like giving up on the only thing that I know how to do, but it's like I want to try to figure out how to plot a course from where I am to something that I care about. Oh man. Well, I could try to put this back together. I think I need to unpack a tripod. I think my tripods might be upstairs. Oh, so we could work on that. We could just kind of keep this like a chat kind of stream. I don't know what people are in the mood for. All right. Well, I might take a really quick restroom break and then try to reassemble some of this stuff, and I'll bring a tripod or something, and we can get the camera on it too. That answers one question. Tuco was upstairs sitting on top of a packed up box of books. nice. Bird calls. Yeah, I mean, well, we can mostly hang out. I can just kind of low-key try to put stuff together, but mostly focus on the chat aspect, I guess. Oh gosh, I think I need my sweater again. It is too cold. How I started packing. Yeah, my life is boxes right now. A lot of the stuff right here actually is not, like I haven't really started packing it. It's more just like stuff that was between reorganizations. Yeah, there's a bunch of boxes over there. Oh gosh, speaking of like body stuff, how do people have bodies anyway? I feel like the other thing that's been weird lately is does this still not work? Oh, good, Tuco. All right, that's good. I feel like the lens is dusty. Unwillingly, yeah. Yeah, I feel like my feelings about bodies change a lot depending on how much I feel like I'm actually in mine, which has also changed a lot recently. I mean, I don't know. I went through life for a long time not really feeling like I was in my body, and then transition happened, and that improved my whole like body situation for a while. And then some trauma happened, which unimproved it. And then I'm starting to like get over that, I think, to the point where I can actually be in my body, which is nice. And some of it's good, some of it is annoying. Like, I've been feeling a lot more just like intestinal distress that I think I just wasn't even noticing before, which is great, but also annoying. Tuco. Oh gosh, autoimmune. Yeah, that's frustrating. Yeah, and allergies are annoying too. I feel like I'm often like allergic to something that I'm not quite sure what it is. I think a lot of it is Tuco, but I don't think it's entirely that. And it used to be like outdoor stuff, but not so much currently. But before I moved here, I was more allergic to the outdoors. Honey, don't. No. No. I don't have the computer vision turned on right now because, well, mostly because the winches are down, but, you know. Oh, gosh. Yeah, Tuco is great. He's just very demanding. It really burrows into your soul, for sure. Does anybody else like Automaton? I don't know if I should try playing it here because I enjoy it, but I'm still not very good at it, so it's probably annoying for everyone else. Tuco Flyer is not actually hanging from that pole, it's just kind of stuck up against it because winches. Oh, actually, can I run the winches right now? I think in manual mode I can probably still drive it. Oh, gotta remember how to do this. Whoa. Oh gosh. Yeah, right? The best thing to do is always to do something that you're not good at in a room full of harsh critics, right? If you just want to have a great experience. I'm like following him around manually right now because I have the computer vision turned off. Yeah, I'm looking forward to making some good cat furniture for this guy. Because, I mean, like right now, if I want to set up woodworking tools to make cat furniture, I'm now using a bunch of power tools in a way that is hard to be, like, safe around the cat, and I've got to, like, monitor that. And once I have a separate garage where I can make the cat furniture and then bring it into the living room, that'll be great. Meow. Oh, that's the wrong octave. Hey, Tuco. Oh, does Tuco like things he can crawl inside? Yeah, a lot of times he does. He's into boxes, of course. Oh, he's been doing this thing recently where sometimes he'll pick apart the seam between my fitted sheet on my bed and the mattress, and he'll crawl under the sheet. Wonderwall. How does that one go? Oh yeah, like a hamster tube tunnel? That would be great. Ocarina of Time? No, that was supposed to be the original.
I think Tuco is kind of cold. His back is all puffed up. Gosh, this place I'm trying to move into has like walls and heating and air conditioning. Can we get a better view of Tuke? Tuco loves piles of cables and sandbags. Anyway, this is the automaton, if you're wondering what that sound was from. It's got a speaker in the mouth, and then it's got a little slide variable potentiometer thingy. No more workshop heater, right? I haven't even been using the workshop heater much lately because it's so ineffective and uses so much gas. So, and like, I mean, I've got some electric heat from the rack, but it's not that much. I think Tuco wants bolts. Mm-hmm. This winch does not drive like it normally does with two of the winches offline because I can't put it in automatic mode because that just throws an exception. I mean, not like a software exception, but I mean like it's an exceptional situation that causes it to leave the mode. It's bugging me now. I can't actually remember what Wonderwall sounds like. I know I've heard it, and I could probably play it if I can remember it, but I don't think I've listened to it in ages. Is there going to be a box mark Tuco bolts when you move? Yeah, definitely. Oh, Tuco. Oh no, Tuco, stay away from the lasers. Oh no, honey. Oh, how do I robot? There we go. Manual mode, don't fail me now. There, kind of drive it. Yeah, so automatic mode just halts immediately. I have to individually select the winch and then tell the winch to go up or down. And then in that mode, I can also control the gimbal. Cube Unit is wondering if they missed the conversation. No, we can still talk. I mean, you missed the first 2 hours, but I'm happy to still hang out. I'm not trying to leave right now. Oh, is Tuke gonna hang out? Because that would be awesome. Yeah, so I love Tuco so much, and he's really great, and he's also really, really hard to be around, and just reconciling those two things together has been a challenge in this space. So I'm looking forward to trying to make some changes to actually improve that. I wonder if I can get the camera lower. It's perfect, don't touch it, but I can fuss with it. Oh, is that one at the low limit already? I see. Aw. Yeah, I think this is probably, I mean, a challenging space for cats, depending on the cat personality. I have a bunch of neighbors with cats here, but I think those cats also have kind of different personalities than Tuco. Um, Tuco's half Bengal, and he definitely acts like it. I think he's also just, I don't know, he's a very active cat, and I'm his third human. Like, I adopted him when he was only a year old, and he'd already had two other humans that couldn't deal with how extra he is all the time. So, I mean, I'm doing my best, and I have no intention of, looking for a new home for Tuco. He and I are together till the end, but it's still tough. Oh yeah. Oh, Tuco, don't eat that. That's a boxed header. Oh, he probably likes the little catch on the Molex connectors. Oh, gosh. Yeah, I don't think Tuco would eat those little connectors, but he would definitely chew on them. Um, Things that he eats that he shouldn't are mostly plastic and hair. Who are you going over there, Tuco? I think the camera lens is dusty. Either that or I've got some kind of contrast problem on the HDMI signal. Why not both? Oh, that helped. Whoa! Careful, honey. Oh gosh, yeah, Tuco is very inspiring. Like, he's better at interacting with people than I am. He's better at remembering to eat than I am. He's more playful than I am. Do you want a bolt, Tuco? Yep. Oh yeah, let's not be as bossy as Tuco. Yeah, one thing that I would not emulate about Tuco is that he does not respect anyone's boundaries. And don't be like that. Tuco's right behind that thing. So I'm looking into some extender doodads for getting USB and 4K video over Cat 5 or Cat 6, I guess. And so I ordered a couple of types that seem promising to evaluate them before I get a few more. And if that goes well, it'd be nice to actually look at them on kind of a teardown stream and look at the chipset they're using and try to see what the encoding is like. There's a question, did I try to open up any Wacom tablets newer than the CTE 450? Yeah, around the same time I also opened up the Intuos Pro that I have. I didn't do as much with it because I wanted to keep that one in one piece because it's my like regular tablet that I use for drawing things. But I mean, it seemed like it was roughly the same design. The main difference is significantly more integration. I think instead of an off-the-shelf processor, it had a couple of Wacom ASICs, but I could be remembering that wrong. Definitely had a bigger application-specific chipset. Yes, and I did already get a new camera, which it's pretty recent still. It's right over here. Ouch. It's the Sony, the A6400. So, yeah, I've already been shooting video on that, and I've used it for a couple of streams as the kind of thing on desk camera. And it is a huge improvement. Much better autofocus, great lens, clean HDMI out. It's just been really good. So that'll continue to be an improvement as I set stuff up in the new studio. Oh yeah, besides having good sound insulation, I also am looking forward to really having a better way to do sound, or way to do like light and camera rigging. So I want to put in, like I've got these poles, right? The poles are great for this kind of empty concrete box that I'm in, but if I'm in a room, I just want to put like pipes along the walls and the ceiling. I think that would be great. I fell a couple weeks ago and scraped my hand really badly, and I finished making new skin, but the skin is still very tender because it's very new. That's that same pile of paper he was in earlier. Not Tuco. Gosh, that we still haven't gotten around to doing a project with that arcade cabinet, which I got a while ago for a project which has long since failed, and I was planning on just having it, doing something different with it on the stream, but still hasn't happened. Once I actually have some more space after moving out of this box, though, I think we'll actually be able to work on that, and I might be able to set it up in my front yard or something. Gosh, can I move the camera? Oh yeah, there we go. Yeah, so I used the new 4K camera to get a bunch of additional footage of this orb thing, which, as I said earlier, my plan for this thing has been to take it apart. I already took apart the shipping container for it, so I don't want to ship it to the new place. I'm done taking this around. Like, I'm happy to take the arcade cabinet with me to my new place, but I don't want to keep carting around this stupid orb. I mean, I built it in this place, so I haven't even moved it, but I had a crate that I used to take it to the show that I made it for, and then back. And yeah, my goal is to take it apart and reuse the parts for other things. But right now it's still in one piece. Right now I can still plug it in and get more intact footage of it if I want. But I don't know if I want anymore. Oh, I'm kind of running out of steam for this. I don't know if I have energy to do like a full winch reassembly right now. I could use some social cool down, and I could use some food at some point. But if anybody is still interested in chatting and has like a question or a topic or something, we could do some more chatting. But I could also wrap this up, and we could stream again some other time. I'll try not to be such a stranger, even when I'm feeling kind of socially overwhelmed, but I hope the stream at least kind of explained what's been going on lately. Oh, anything else you definitely don't want to take with you? Oh, well, it's not that I don't want to take that art thing with me, it's that I don't want to have to move it in one piece. So the thing that's really hard about it right now is that the orb part is just suspended, and it doesn't really come apart. Let me see if I can get a better view. Yeah. So I can't really pull this sideways right now, can I? Yeah. So it's all just hanging by those wires. And I had a crate that I could use to move it all in one piece, but I just don't want that anymore. The bottom part has some sensors and an FPGA and a bunch of LEDs in it, but I can just cut those wires and attach it to something else or rebuild it or take the parts out or something. I don't really want to have to move the entire thing. And then likewise, the top has some stuff that I might want. Like it's got a bunch of speakers and amplifiers and audio resonant chambers and stuff, and so it could be an interesting just like sound project on its own, but I don't want to have to move this in one piece. Tuco, what are you doing? Tuco's behind there doing something. And then the arcade cabinet actually does not have a lot of history. Like, I didn't build the arcade cabinet, I just... Tuco, what are you doing over there? I was going to make like an interactive music game that would require a bunch of LEDs and buttons, and I was going to make a thing that you could take to events that you could use to remix songs, and I was going to build it into that arcade cabinet. The arcade cabinet is only partially functional. Like, it doesn't really turn on. I think it's a problem with the video, but I don't know how bad the problem is. I bought it non-functional, cheap on Craigslist a while ago, and haven't really done anything with it yet. So it's still basically raw materials for project at this point. But I think it's actually, I don't know what the original game is. It's, so that like yellow and purple background art on the bottom behind the joystick, I think that was whatever the cabinet originally was. It's something I don't recognize. And then it was they swapped out the board and the artwork for this WrestleFest, which is, I think, the board that's in there right now, but the video doesn't work. So, but yeah, I'd like to try to fix it. I think it's fixable. It might be something where I try to repair, or at least, take stock of what's there, repair some of it, and then try to build it into a new project or something. Oh, Tuco, you found me a bolt. Oh yeah, and then Muhammad's question about what that Ethernet HDMI extender I was tweeting about was. Yeah, that was me looking into So I'm trying to plan out how to set up my recording and streaming and editing and storage equipment when I move out of this place. And so right now I'm in this one concrete box where all my equipment is right here, noisy, and I've tried to keep it as quiet as possible, but it's still pretty close by. What I'm trying to do when I move is to move the equipment further away from where I'm actually recording. So that's going to involve potentially extending some of the video and USB and other stuff. And so I was looking into how practical that would be. This isn't the only option. Like, another option is to have the equipment just on the other side of an interior wall or in a shed that's like right next to the building, and so the wires would still be short. But I'm trying to evaluate my options, and so one of the things I'm looking into is, can I, for a reasonable like cost and functionality, just extend everything over Cat 6 or Cat 7 cables? So that's what I'm looking into doing. And so that way I would have a small equipment cabinet in the recording studio that has only fanless equipment, and then a bigger equipment rack, probably in the garage, but maybe somewhere else, that would have arbitrarily noisy stuff. And so yeah, there's a relatively new standard-ish, I don't even know if I want to call it a standard, because it's being touted as a standard, but it doesn't really seem like it's a cross-vendor standard. But it's called HD Base T, which is, it's based on kind of a mashup of 10 gig Ethernet and HDMI, but it's designed to basically be like an all-in-one kind of HD terminal and control and presentation kind of protocol that all runs over one wire. So it has serial and USB and IR and Ethernet in addition to video and audio all over. I think it's specified to run over Cat 6 cable. They recommend, actually maybe it's specified for Cat 5, but I think the best practice is to use shielded Cat 6 at least. So I was thinking about running Cat 7 maybe. Hey Fuzzo. Tuco. Now he's tearing up paper again. Tuk. Is it time for more bolts? I know. Oh yeah, JD's wondering if I'm thinking of creating more art robot projects like that squiggling toothbrush bot. Yeah, totally. I mean, that's definitely the kind of thing that I'd like to have kind of more energy to work on. I feel like I need to try to figure out how to focus on producing either video content or like things that I can like put up for sale as a way to like sustainably do what I'm doing. Because I think, you know, I think that project could have turned into an interesting video. I just didn't quite get to that point. So yeah, maybe I should just finish that. I think with the video stuff, I've just been kind of struggling with the, you know, like the narrative aspect of it. Like, how do I fit these things into like a story that actually makes sense and have it not just feel like kind of a DIY show and tell thing. And so, but yeah, maybe I'll do more drawing robots. Where's Tuco? I lost track of him, and I heard him over there somewhere. Yeah, I don't know where he is or what he's into. I hear something over there. Oof. Oh yeah, Mohammed's bringing up those little adapters that send compressed video over the network. Yeah, those are interesting. I mean, I think those are popular. Like, people bring them up a lot. I haven't yet found a reason to use one here though. Like, it doesn't really fit into my streaming setup because of the latency. Like, you could stream something with latency by itself, right? But if you're trying to stream a bunch of separate cameras and audio, then getting a bunch of cameras synchronized with a variable amount of latency is just more trouble than it's worth. And then, I mean, the other thing I'd want video extension for is just like local monitoring, but that's also really latency sensitive. And I also need more than 1080p resolution for some of those monitors. Like, I've got 2 monitors that need 4K and 1 monitor that's 1440p, and so I need solutions for those too. JD's wondering about ideas for my future projects. I mean, I'm not really focused on projects right now, right? I mean, I feel like Tuco, oh, Tuco's just using a litter box. Like, I don't know, projects are cheap, projects are easy, right? Like, I'm not worried about ideas for projects, because I feel like I could arbitrarily have as many of those as I wanted, and I wouldn't have any reason to care about them or feel good about them or feel like any of them are relevant. So, like, I feel like I'm not really focusing on projects so much as I'm trying to figure out how to fit my work into some kind of context. So, like, a way to produce videos that aren't just DIY show and tell videos, but actually have some kind of narrative meaning to them. You know, a way to have projects that fit into some kind of context and aren't just kind of arbitrary. So there's a bunch of like stuff that I could build. There's stuff that I would find it interesting to use personally. I could just like make a bunch of weird arbitrary stuff that makes like kind of interesting YouTube content. But I'm personally really bored with kind of interesting YouTube content. I want to make something that has more interesting context to it. So like that's really the number one problem here. I mean, like the health stuff and the moving stuff and the roommate stuff all kind of like jumped in there, but really the number one problem I'm having right now is like, what am I actually doing that feels even remotely relevant? So that's what I'm trying to solve. And to me, the answer is not really that much involving projects. It's more like, what am I actually trying to do with my work? I mean, I understand some of you are not entirely bored with my kind of interesting YouTube content, but like, I have a really hard time making content that I am bored by. Like, it's really bad for the burnout, so I'm trying to find something that's more interesting to me. What is the YouTube hardware community? Sounds dreadful. Oh gosh. So yeah, there's some boxes. There's a bunch more boxes upstairs. Oh, can I bring the camera up there? How high can I raise this on only 2 inches? Oops. That's probably as much tension as I want to give it. Can't quite see the upstairs from here. But there's a bunch of boxes piled up there, and Tuco's cat wheel on the right. And there's boxes. And there's me and Tuc. Views like this will be a little harder to get. Like, the camera right now is, I think, higher than the ceiling is going to be on my new studio. JD is wondering what my... Oh gosh, Tuco, what are you doing? Tuco just walked across the keyboard. Are we still streaming? I think we're still streaming. JD asks, what triggered good motivation in the past? That's the hard part here, is that those things that motivated me in the past, I think, are things that I specifically have like exhausted. Like, I've come to the end of them. I've realized that they weren't good to begin with, or they no longer have anything to offer me. Like, a lot of the reason why I did so much tech when I was much younger was that it was specifically an escape from a bad family life. Like, I didn't just spend all my time at the computer because it was interesting. It was because, you know, my little, you know, hyper-focus need at the time meshed really well with my need to be as far away from my parents as possible. So, like, the things that I've been interested in around technology have been building from the bottom up. They take, you know, interesting little Lego blocks and they plug them together in interesting ways, and then they get excited about all the things you can build with them. You know, it's always of the form, here's a construction kit, and just let's get excited about all the stuff you can do with the construction kit. That's what I feel like the kind of technology I'm used to, that's where it comes from, is that excitement over an interesting Lego kit. And that requires assuming that you can build some cool things with the Lego kit, which means either like having some evidence, like seeing that people have built cool things, seeing what other people have built and thinking that they're cool, or seeing some things that you've built in the past and feeling like they're cool, or having some reason to believe in that promise. And I just don't have that anymore. Like, I don't have this like faith that technology is a Lego kit that is worth building with. And maybe it is, but that requires thinking it through a little more rather than just making that assumption. It's a pretty relaxing view of Tuco. I mean, this is part of why I've been, why I've had a hard time getting the social energy to stream lately, is it feels like my motivations are really not in alignment with what I think a lot of people expect from like a technology YouTuber, in quotes, or whatever. And like, I don't know, I feel like a lot of what I've got to do with my work in the near future is to kind of burst people's bubble a little bit and to say, hey, oh yeah, you like this thing? I like this thing too. Let's talk about that thing. But oh, actually there's also some parts of that maybe like I've been severely disillusioned by, and maybe we could benefit from thinking about differently. And that's kind of more what I'm trying to do than to be the cheerleader. But I'm trying to not be a complete downer about it, because that'll just depress everyone. Yeah, Tuco talks with his tail a lot. The gently swinging camera with the kind of 3D perspective is, I'll kind of miss that maybe. Well, this might be a good time to make some make some food. Is this move really costly right now? I mean, it'll save a lot of money versus trying to stay here. I haven't spent a lot of money so far, but I haven't actually done the move. I've just like bought boxes and been putting stuff in boxes, and I've been trying to plan out house stuff. But I mean, I'm buying a house. The house itself is expensive. But you know, yeah, I haven't actually had to like hire the truck yet. I don't know quite how much that's going to cost. But yeah, it's all going to be a lot less money than trying to stay here. The rent here is really expensive, and there's no reason to stay here anymore. I'm wondering how Tuco is going to react to. Well, I mean, I guess in general, I wonder how Tuco is going to react to the new location. But he seems to really be attached to the boundary between the hallway and like my unit here. Like he seems to really want to guard that entrance. He seems to like going out there and seeing what's going on. And so I'm a little worried that he's going to try to like get territorial about the front yard. Like he'll try to rush out there, and I mean, I'm going to not allow him out there, but you know, I'm worried that he's going to try to like run out there to the front yard and be like, "Oh, what's up?" and then just like treat that as his whole territory, which doesn't seem like it'll be safe for him or possibly for the wildlife around. So, you know, I want to make sure that he has like a good indoor space that he can feel comfortable about. But I'm also kind of worried that he's going to constantly be like trying to figure out where the boundaries are. Oh yeah, good question. Volton Cascode's wondering if I have any plans to get involved with the neighborhood or the community where I'm moving to. Yeah, I mean, I don't really have specific plans for that yet, but that's definitely the kind of thing that I'm excited about doing. Like I feel like I've been kind of I've been kind of disappointed with how much I've been able to feel part of the community here. Part of that's because it all feels so temporary because it's expensive, and I don't know how long I can stay here, and everyone else is moving on because it's expensive, and so everything just feels very transitory and temporary in the Bay Area right now. So I mean, that's just been happening in the background. But then I've also just been feeling like, oh, well, the specific social groups that I know and that I've been able to meet around here, I've been having trouble with for different reasons. And I just feel like everything is under so much pressure to, I mean, it's like, well, I can't just rely on staying here. I've got to figure out how to solve the problem of how do I pay for the super expensive rent. And if I can't solve that problem, then everything else here is temporary, so there's no reason to get involved with anything here. And so it's been kind of hard to get past that. I feel like if I'm living somewhere where, you know, I'm not going to be worried about paying the rent constantly, then I'll have an easier time just like relaxing a bit and getting involved with the place. And so that's part of it. I think that it just being less expensive will mean that I can relax more and that other people will be able to relax more. But I think that also, yeah, I think it is a city where I'll be able to get more involved in the local government. The local government here is not very, you know, not very fun to get involved in because it's really entirely focused on, like, I mean, this city is mostly office buildings and big box stores, and so the local government is really focused on their needs, and it doesn't seem like it would be fun to get involved in. I'm sure anything is going to have its own challenges, but it's like the challenges that I seem to be finding here are not, they don't seem they don't seem worth it because I don't really like this place enough to want it to stay my home, you know? Aw. Oh yeah, and pointing out how location made a big difference for her cat. Yeah, yeah, I bet so. I mean, Tuco even has been different just living here versus living in our previous place. I imagine that'll make a big difference. Oh, Tuco, you taking apart those papers again? Yeah, I'm really looking forward to having a quieter space to do these in, because I mean, the fan noise right now, I don't know how much it bothers you, but it certainly annoys me to have so much background noise when I stream. Hey, Fuzzo. As JD asks what the trigger was for the social aspect to share and provide my work here. I mean, yeah, that's an interesting question. Like, it's kind of just like, I mean, I find humans overwhelming most of the time. So a lot of what you're seeing here is what I've kind of adapted to do in order to have some interaction with people that is not overwhelming. You know, because I used to, I mean, like, I've been on the internet for a long time. I grew up with the internet. I'm one of those old millennials. I'm one of those 35-year-old millennials who had dial-up. And so, and I also had this really isolated life at home. So most of my early socializing, such as it was finding like-minded weirdos online, like on IRC, and talking to them. So really, I mean, that's kind of been my strategy all along is, you know, find manageable ways of interacting with other people through some kind of little tiny like cocktail straw of humanity. And that's kind of what I've been doing. It's just a long time ago that was IRC, and I did blogs for a while, and then I kind of got more into video, and that turned into live streaming, and so that it's just kind of me walking around and seeing what looks doable. And you know, some of it's because I crave human connection, but you know, some of it's because I don't really know what else to do. It's like it doesn't seem fulfilling to just do everything on my own and be a complete hermit. I want to at least be able to interact with other humans in a limited capacity. And I think there's also the feeling that some of this might be helpful, although, you know, that kind of comes and goes. Like, I'm not really sure how to be helpful, and I try a lot of things, but I don't have a lot of confidence that I can be a lot of the time. Well, I should maybe sign off before I completely run out of energy here. And go make a sandwich or something and play with Tuco a bunch. But thanks for hanging out. I will try to be less of a stranger. I do need to actually take apart my streaming rig, but I'm trying to set this up so that I can do that last-ish and take apart less necessary equipment first. So yeah, I'm not gonna just like stop streaming because I have to move. I'm gonna try to keep everybody updated to the extent that I can. But yeah, life's been weird, and this year has been kind of more full of complication and uncertainty than the last few. But I feel like I'm on the upswing and things are doing all right now. So I'll try to keep taking care of myself, but also keep making progress on projects and streaming when I can. And I'll throw some bolts for Tuco before he eats all of my USB cables, because I will need those. All right, see you all later. Oh, right, that's still not working. All right, I'll see you all later.